It's been quite a week. Can't hear me? I will speak out louder. It's been quite a week. This week hit me pretty hard, and I was depressed for the past 2 days. I don't think anything, I think something opened up this week that is going to change the world. And I didn't know how I was going to approach this talk today. I was asking Evan, I was like, how am I going to, what am I supposed to talk about, stuff like that. And I figured I would have just winged it. And I still am going to. I'm just going to be authentic and just put it out there. I listened to a couple talks, and it seemed like these guys had some training in public speaking. I'm more of a non-traditional, just put it out there. And I have a message, and I think it's the most important thing. So do we have any Christians in the room? All right. Do we have any Muslims in the room? Where's he at? I know he is. Do we have any Muslims in the room? Okay. Do we have any Jewish people in the room? Do we have any non-religious people in the room? Do we have any atheists in the room? All right. Does everyone here have a connection with God or a universe, right? All right. That being said, I want to start with a prayer. You can pray in whatever lineage is appropriate for you. I'll guide it. So, dear universe, God, thank you for all that we have, the shelter, the protection, the support, the love that we take for granted on a daily basis. And dear God, as we go through these dark times, please give us the strength to find the light and share and spread the light. Amen. My message today is connection. Has anyone ever heard of the ACEs study? Yeah? We got one person? I'm going to explain this study. This study, to make it short, it was done through a weight loss program. There were a lot of women in the program that were losing weight, and as soon as they got close to their goal weight, they gained their weight back and then some, which was curious. So they questioned these women and they asked them things, and it found out that all of these women were a victim of abuse. And what they did was they regained the weight because losing too much weight made them feel vulnerable, and having weight made them feel protected. In Chinese medicine, we call it the yang way. So they did a separate study, and they found out that if you had what's called adverse childhood experiences, your chances for disease increased exponentially. So I know a lot of people come here and they will share their, a little bit of their life experience of how they got to where they're at. So I'm going to kind of use this to guide me a little bit. It's based on a 10-question questionnaire, okay? For every question that you answer yes, you're just going to tally it, okay? I'm going to read it out to you guys, and I want you to just mark every time you answer yes to one of these questions. I want you to mark yes, okay? Before the age of 18 or around the age of 18, up till the age of 18 years old, did you feel that you didn't have enough to eat, had to wear dirty clothes, or had no one to protect or take care of you? Did you lose a parent through divorce, abandonment, death, or other reason? Did you live with anyone who's depressed, mentally ill, or attempted suicide? Did you live with anyone who had a problem with drinking or using drugs, including prescription drugs? Did your parents or adults in your home ever hit, punch, beat, or threaten to harm each other? Did you live with anyone who went to jail or prison? Did a parent or adult in your home ever swear at you, insult you, or put you down? Did a parent or adult in your home ever hit, beat, kick, or physically hurt you in any way? Did you feel that no one in your family loved you or thought you were special? Did you experience unwanted sexual contact, such as fondling, oral, anal, vaginal intercourse, or penetration? So, if you had 4 or more ACEs, 4 or more adverse childhood experiences, you were 12 times more likely to attempt suicide. You are 7 times more likely to be an alcoholic. You are 10 times more likely to inject street drugs. You are 2.1 times more likely to die from heart disease or diabetes. You're 2.3 times more likely to die from cancer. Your likelihood of depression, lung disease, and sexually transmitted infections increases. If you had 6 or more, you had a 20-year shortening of your lifespan. And this is because toxic stress leads to decreased brain development and increased chronic inflammation in your body. I had 9, and I felt it growing up in my body. I felt it in my behaviors, my mental health, and my physical health. And you'd look at me now, and you wouldn't. I'm a completely different person than I was 15 years ago. I could talk about trauma, right? And I could talk about the impacts of trauma, but this kind of summarized it. I was going to tell some of my experiences of losing my dad when I was young and losing my brother when I was young, and how that affected me and my behaviors and how I showed up in the world, how I behaved with other people, how I treated it with other people, the aggression and animosity that was in me. I was going to talk about those things and also show that you can come out on the other side. A big part of coming out on the other side is finding gratitude. My family, I'm the only person in my family born in America. My family immigrated here from Guyana. Does anyone know where Guyana is? That's like 4 people in the room. If I would have asked this when I was in high school or even like early years of college, nobody would know where Guyana is. It's a little more famous now because they found oil and like it's the fastest growing country in the world. But when my family was there, they had to flee the country because there was like civil war. It's not really spoken of or known about because it's such a small country and it's such a minority in this country. So they came to this country. My father came in his 60s. My father had me at 65 years old. I was the last of 6 in my family. I was a total surprise. He came with 4 children and my mom, and they were very well off in that country, but when they came here, the exchange rate is very low, so when they came here, they were in poverty. My father came here and started up an entirely new life in this country in his 60s. Can you imagine being 60 years old and have to leave your country and then start from scratch, right? That's about the time people are retiring. So I was born, and I'm the only American in my family. In my household, it was Guyanese immigrants. You know, that was their foundation of their ideologies, their belief systems, paradigms, and worldviews. I was born a Muslim. My family are Muslims. I'm no longer religious. I went to a Methodist school. So when I was born, my mom wanted to make sure that I had a good education, or like a better education. So they put me in a Methodist school. a Lutheran school and a Catholic school for my upbringing. So my foundation of knowledge and morals and ethics and relationship with God was through the Christian faith. When my brother died when I was 19, I found religion, I found my relationship with Islam, because when religion is like a segue for understanding what comes on the other side after a person dies, right? It really helps find us peace there. So when my brother died, we started praying. I learned prayers, but I never went to mosque or fasted, or, I drank alcohol, I ate pork, don't tell my mom. Like she would, if she was here, she'd be like, Ili, what you do that for? She's got like this patois. So that was my foundational religion. And I grew up in a neighborhood that was like not the best neighborhood. It was primarily urban. It was like a black neighborhood, and my school was white Christians, well-to-do kids. My home was a Muslim immigrant home, and I was just kind of in the middle, right? And where do I fit in the world? Like existential crisis in my late teens, early 20s. It was challenging to understand who I was, and I participated in so many different communities to understand who I was. And each time I would like find some kind of comfortability or safety, I was reminded by the community that like I wasn't supposed to be there. So I became like an outlier, and I spent a lot of time in my life alone. And at first it was depressing, and then later on it was actually comforting to find my relationship with myself and understand myself and be by myself. I go out by myself all the time now. I love it. I'm married now, and my wife is incredibly supportive, thank God. But now it's understanding that I had to go through these journeys in life to help find myself and understand myself, go through these trials and tribulations, go through the hard times, the hardships, the challenges, the darkness, to come out on the other side and find the light. I understand these processes of life now. I understand that in Taoism, you cannot have the light without the dark. You cannot have the dark without the light. It comes. It's the intertransformational relationship of yin and yang. They cannot exist without the other. And that was a framework, and that was a paradigm that brought me peace. So I lived later in a Jewish community, and my neighbors were all Jewish, and it was very beautiful to live with my neighbors. I have mentor children in that relationship that I'm kind of a mentor. At least I was at that time. They're in their 20s now, and they're too cool to hang out with me. But I also went to Chinese medicine school. In Chinese medicine school, you get a foundation in Buddhism and Taoism and Confucianism, because Chinese medicine is a philosophy that has been refined over time and steeped in medicine. How you should live, how you should eat, how you should behave, how you should treat others, how you should sleep, how you should exercise, all of that stuff. It's a full spectrum medicine. And then in 2016, I lived in the Shaolin Temple with Shaolin monks. I trained martial arts, I learned medicine from them, I learned their lifestyle, and that was the happiest I'd ever been in my life until I met my wife. I found peace, my hair grew back on my head. My gray hairs disappeared on my beard, I swear to God. All that happened when I was there. Then when I was in college, I took a class, World Religions, and I learned about the different worldviews of the world. And I learned that at the core root of all of it, they're all saying the same thing. And they're just different paths to get to that destination, right? And the Dalai Lama said something. He said, if you go to China, you'll find Buddhism and Taoism. If you go to India, you'll find Hinduism. If you go to the Middle East, you'll find Islam. If you go to the West, you'll find Christianity and Judaism. and and they're all saying the same things, but they're paths that make sense to those different cultures, right? And that's why it makes sense for people from the Middle East to follow that path, and people from the West to follow that path, and people from the East to follow that path. And I came to this point in my life where I understood that I could take the best from all of those different religions and use them to refine myself, instead of finding disagreements and disconnections with others. So as time went by, that became my worldview and my paradigm and my foundation in how I wanted to operate in the world. But from there, that was my starting place, and I continued to learn through practice, through living, through my life experience, what I feel is some of the most important stuff right now. And I believe that disconnection with each other is the root cause of all of the problems that we have in the world. All of it. And I could break it down into nuances, and I can explain to you how every individual situation shows some form of disconnect. And that's why conflict arises, or killing, or whatever doesn't work out. I believe that connection with each other is the most important thing in the world. Has anyone ever heard of polyvagal theory? We got a couple people. Polyvagal theory is based on evolutionary biology, where we developed different branches of our vagus nerve over periods of time. 100 million years ago or 500 million years ago, we developed the dorsal vagal branch. That was the branch that said, when I feel threatened, to find safety, I shut down. And I shut down because I need to take all of the blood from the periphery of my body and bring it into my organs. So if I was attacked, my arm was cut off, I wouldn't bleed out. 400 million years ago, we developed a second branch, and this was the fight or flight branch. And this was the branch that said, if I feel threatened, to find safety, I'm either going to fight back or I'm going to run away, right? Primitive branches to operate in these ways, fighting with each other, shutting down. And we can't avoid them because they're automatic. They're a part of our autonomic nervous system. My depression this week is something I couldn't control. It's something that I had to do. I had to go through in order to come out on the other side and feel better. But then we got one more branch. And this evolved about 200 million years ago. And this is called the ventral vagal branch. And this was the branch that said we find safety in connection with others. So this showed up in when you see antelopes running in herds in Africa. They would run in herds so that the lions couldn't attack just one of them. Or when you see like all these ducks that are invasive in Florida, when they have all these babies, their wings when they sleep together, the mom's wings will cover all the babies and they will all huddle up together. Or when you see like puppies laying on top of each other and they sleep together, right? There's even a risk factor for health and longevity. And they find that like one of the most important things that you can do for health and longevity is finding love with someone, having someone to sleep with at night in your bed. So it's not just my personal belief. There's actually like evolutionary biology and science to support what I'm saying, you know? But I think the challenge arises when we find our own internal struggles to connect with others. When it's our internal battles that stop us from finding connection oftentimes. I can't control if that person doesn't want to connect with me, right? But I can do my best within myself to create at least a peaceful place between each other. I'm ashamed to say that at times I have to leave friends behind because I'm contributing to that disconnection. But I always try to find my peace and get to a better, clearer head to come back to those people and take responsibility wherever I can in those relationships. There are two things that cause disconnection. These two things can be subcategorized into almost every kind of damage and trauma and conflict. The first one is abandonment. Abandonment is somebody died, somebody was not emotionally available, my parents weren't there, my girlfriend was not there, my friends weren't there when I needed them, right? I had no support when I needed it. The second thing is engulfment. Engulfment is physical abuse, sexual abuse, verbal abuse, right? And all the ways that those can show up. So if I went back in that ACEs, that 10 question list, all of those questions can be put into one of those categories. So when I'm unhappy with something someone is doing, I find that my core mechanism is to abandon. I don't know where I learned it from, but maybe it's the fight or flight kicking in to run away because I don't want to fight. But I also feel like that is not necessarily the right thing to do in the big picture, right? I feel like I need to find it within myself to make my resolve to be the best person that I can be and how I can establish a better dynamic with this person. And at the very least, set an example of how I can continue to show up and contribute to society in the smallest way possible. So I had a friend this week that told me it was not a tragedy that Charlie Kirk died. It was not a tragedy. And however you feel about the guy, it is what it is, right? Like, he had an opinion. I don't agree with all of his opinions, but I think it's a tragedy that his children and his wife had to witness his murder in real time. His children were in the crowd. His wife was in the crowd and they watched it. I think that's a tragedy. I know. Could you imagine? Could you imagine? And those kids have to live with this. We live in a new time where everything's on social media. I saw that video on a text message. 20 years ago, that would not have happened, right? When JFK died, you couldn't do that. This will circulate throughout society forever. When his children are of age to understand what happened, there will be mean kids in their school. There will be mean people out there that will say things they'll show them the videos. I couldn't imagine what these kids are going to go through. And his poor wife and his family and his parents, right? You have kids, you understand. And I asked my friend, I said, if you don't think that's a tragedy, I would say to you, you know what, I would challenge you. I'd say, I dare you to say that I would challenge you to say to those kids' face that was not a tragedy. And he said, I would. I would, because it's the truth. The kid, however he felt about him, the kids are innocent in this, right? That's unfortunate. And what I did was I made an internal decision that I was not going to speak to this friend for a very long time. And that's my behavior of abandoning. That's the thing that is the mechanism of which that I'm using that is contributing to the disconnection. And my challenge currently is, how do I make my peace with this person's worldview while still creating harmony, right? And that's an internal struggle for everyone that we're all going to have to go through. But we're all in it together, man. I think we all got to, do what we can. Because It's not really good times right now in the big scheme of things, right? And I don't think there can be a dependency on anything outside of us to really make the change, right? And does anybody know the Mahatma Gandhi quote? You have to be the change you want to see in the world, right? And then there's the Rumi quote. I was clever, so I wanted to change the world. But now I am wise, so I'm changing myself, right? And these are these internal struggles and dialogues and facing our own convictions and core beliefs and finding our own walls that are so hard to knock down and fighting against our core patterns of aggression that we're constantly programmed through every single day, right? Every time you turn on the news and you look on social media, there's something bad scare you and put you in fight or flight, right? And this is like the core struggle and challenge that we're all faced with. But you know, what if we like looked at things a little bit differently? What if that shooter said, you know what, I don't agree with you, but I don't agree with you, but I don't need to kill you, and you can live and exist how you are, and I can live and exist how I am, right? And I can create an ideology and a belief system, and if people want to follow me for my ideology and my belief system, they can, right? I can pave my own path and see who follows, just like he did, right? What if that would have happened instead of, you know, killing somebody, cold blood, daylight, cameras everywhere for everyone to see? How do you think the world would be today, right? I don't think we'd have this like heavy cloud looming. And what if everyone did something like that daily for each other, right? What if everyone took the initiatives to resolve within themselves the things that keep us disconnected, right? I'm not perfect, and I don't believe that I'm someone to. I have my flaws too, right? I have my own personal struggles too, right? And that's human of me, and accepting my humanity is a big part of that, right? But at the same time, like, it doesn't mean that I should neglect the things that need attention. And when I feel a little bit stronger, and when I have a little bit more energy, I can address those things. I can go into meditation and be myself and find and make my resolve, right? Maybe I could see a therapist and make my resolve, right? So that's kind of my message for today. Is I think that whatever world we're trying to create for ourselves, whether it's happier world for our kids, right? That's what's most important for me, is the children, or whether it's I just want to have a happy home or whatever, or I want to have a good career, right? It all starts with what goes on in here. So my friends, growing up my entire life, I have, you know, friends from the hood, the ghetto, lifelong friends. I've got friends that I go hunting with and fishing with. I've got my Jewish friends. I've got my Muslim friends. I've got my Chinese friends. I've got all of my different friends. And I don't think that I would be where I am at today without the support of all of my friends that came from so many different cultures and backgrounds and supported me, right? And that's why I valued the connection with everyone, right? Like, we have these sub-communities everywhere, but I'm one of those people who had to who had a leg to stand on each step of the way because of all of my different friends from all different groups, because I was right in the middle. I had no place. But now I've taken a little bit from every one of them. I practice Chinese medicine, and I was definitely introduced to that from my Chinese friend. My wife is Jewish. Well, she was born Jewish as well. My best friends are Jewish, and my best friend that is Jewish is also my unofficial sensei. My friends that took me hunting and fishing, I still go hunting and fishing. I feel like it's the best way to like get meat, good healthy meat, and put it in the freezer and have fresh fish from the ocean. So I have these like life skills from them, right? I've got friends from all over that we're all supportive, that have brought value and have helped shape who I am, right? And if I was so narrow that I did not believe in their belief systems, that I found conflict with their belief systems, I don't know where I'd be today. I definitely wouldn't be here, right? My chances of, based on the ACEs score, my chances of survival are supposed to be in the dumps, right? I'm supposed to be incredibly ill. But I've done so much work on myself, and I believe that a part of me being here and doing that work and having the progress in my life is because each step of the way I had one of those friends, didn't matter where they were from, they were there to give me connection, right? So currently, my personal struggle is, how do I make peace with the one friend that has a belief system that challenges my beliefs? How do I find harmony within that? And I believe that we all have a role to play in this. And if we understand, if there's a takeaway from today that I think would give people value, is what part am I playing from? Am I behaving in an engulfing way, or am I behaving in a abandoning way towards the people around me? I believe that if that's another tool that we can use to help create more harmony on this planet. And that's it. That's all I got for you guys today. Thank you.
Any questions?
Thank you. So I think I took the same world religions class that you did. Is it Nathan Katz or?
I can't remember. Honestly, it was like 20 years ago.
Yeah, it was 20 years ago for me. So, but it was an impactful class. I'm thinking about these concepts that you brought up, right, for ACEs. So engulfment and abandonment, and those are two of the, the negative ways that people are impacted. What are the, there's yin and yang. What are the opposites? What is the opposite of them?
Yeah, so what she asked was, with the ACEs, these are like negative experiences that people have. What are the positives? So there was a period of time where I would define, when someone would ask me about my life, I would define it as all of the horrible things that happened, all of the deaths that I saw, all of the trauma, the rapes, the gunshots, all the stuff that I saw growing up. And I would create this timeline in my head where it was like, this happened when I was this age, this happened when I was this age, and this happened, and this happened. But what I was not doing, and the reframing that I had to go through, was I had to recognize that in between all of those things, there are a lot of beautiful experiences too. And it was finding the gratitude for all of those beautiful experiences. A lot of those experiences had to do with my friends. And like, so my big brother died, my oldest brother, he was like the patriarch of our family. He died when I was in 4th grade. And it was a motorcycle accident. And oh man, it still bothers, it still gets me to this day. But for a period of time, I would just remember that. But I forgot about the school that I was in at that time, and how supportive the school was for my emotions, and how supportive my classmates were. I remember I came back after a week, and I had a bunch of cards on my desk from all the students, just like wishing me well. and then all of the field trips we went on, and all the friends that I made, and how like kind they were to me. And I don't know if they were doing it because they knew what happened, right? But this lasted throughout the years. And as I started to remember those memories, I remembered that I had a lot to be grateful for. So I think the opposite side, the yin to the yang of abandonment and engulfment, the other side is finding gratitude. Finding gratitude for any little thing that you can, and keep building it. Find this little piece of this little pebble of gratitude and put it here. Put another one there. Put another one there. And then just keep building it until your baseline level is gratitude. And that way, you know, the negative experiences don't take precedent. Because they don't anymore for me. That's how I put them to bed.
Let's say somebody has had experiences and they are fortunate enough to discover the ACEs checklist. What are some steps that people then can take to improve their life and get back on that track?
So there are ACEs qualified psychologists that you can work with. There are polyvagal psychologists that you can work with. I think like the highest standard is to find a specialized therapist. I think that's the best way you can go. But at the same time, I do think that like autonomy is just as important, if more important. Because when you go see your therapist, it's an hour a week. For the next 23 hours, you're by yourself. And for the next 6 days, you're by yourself. How do you navigate the terrains of the world without the therapist? So self-autonomy to me is also just as important. The tools that I gave today are mostly supposed to be focused on that. But if you need someone to if you need the support, right? If you need the connection, then you have therapists that can help. I used to work on it. I don't anymore. It's a lot for me. I take on too much in practice, and but there are amazing practitioners out there. We have a mutual friend. His name's Jason Schneider. He's the master NLP trainer in the United States and Canada. Neuro-linguistic programming I've found to be one of the most amazing, efficient strategies for reprogramming your mind also. And there are NLP psychologists out there too. So I think therapy, NLP, those are your best shots, but also acquiring the skills to navigate the terrains of life as well is just as important.
And maybe just one follow-up. If, let's say, it goes untreated, and then this trauma stays within the body, and then becomes dis-ease. From your experience with functional medicine, Chinese medicine, maybe some people don't even remember that they had that trauma so young, but it's buried within them, and now it's causing some of the conditions that you treat. What are some of the tools that you are now working with to help people physically?
Yeah. Okay. So what he just asked was, when people have trauma and these like emotional things that have been buried and are affecting their physical health and their emotional health, how do I approach it? I approach with acupuncture. I do a style of acupuncture called non-somatic extraordinary vessel acupuncture. This is meant to resolve what we have going on within us and create more harmony with our external environment. So I use acupuncture for that. And for the physical portion, I also use functional medicine. But I also, like you said, I use mind-body therapies as well. I teach meditations. I'm an NLP practitioner as well. I do neuro-linguistic programming on people. And I just give people like moment-by-moment tools. If a patient comes in today with an issue, that day they need this tool. The next time they come in, they'll need another tool. And maybe it's just navigating life. Maybe it's learning to get out of my own thought process. And how do I get out of my thought process? Maybe I can look at this piece of art and just focus on the different colors and the different shapes, and give my mind something to focus on to get rid of that acute state condition so that I can self-regulate. Right? So each session by session, there's a different tool you can give a person.
Including cupping, including all types of things.
Yeah, so I do cupping. There's cupping that can help like ease tension and stress in the body. The acupuncture is really amazing. There's herbal medicine as well. Chinese herbal medicine is incredibly powerful. And there's functional medicine supplements. Meditation is one of the big ones, man. Meditation every morning, first thing in the morning, regulates your cortisol levels, sets the tone for the day. Qigong, Tai Chi. Movement. Yeah.
So would it be fair to say that functional medicine, the philosophy of your practice is where the mind leads, the body follows? To heal oneself, we have to heal this to get this.
I would have to say that most of the illnesses that I see in the United States are mental illness. But there are people who are not mentally ill that have physical illness, you know? In Chinese medicine, there's no separation between the mind and the body. There's no separation. The mind is the body is the mind. We can go into Western sciences behind that, the gut-brain axis, the myofascial system, right? We can go into all of those things. You can break your arm and be a mentally healthy person. You know, you can have a shoulder pain. You can have gut dysbiosis from eating, you know, fast food every day, but still be a good person and living in harmony with the world, you know? But there is like a large percentage of mentally unhealthy people in this country. 75% of this country has a chronic illness. That is crazy, 75%. And what does that tell me as a practitioner that understands the mind and body? It means that that person's got something's going on with their brain also. Maybe they're not anxious or depressed or have panic attacks, but maybe their brain is just cloudy, right? Maybe their brain just isn't functioning as well because there's so much inflammation, right? So when I hear there's this amount of chronic illness, I automatically think that, yeah, there's obviously something going on with the mind too, you know? I get people on anti-inflammatory supplements and it's like night and day. They say, I just feel like I'm on. I just feel like I'm turned on now. I feel like my brain is on. They think differently. They behave differently. It's almost immediate, you know? So there is some truth to that, but I can't say that everyone's like that. But I do try to create a presence that offers a space for those people to at least explore what's going on. Even if I can't fully resolve it, we can do something about it. Yeah.
Any other questions? Well, thank you guys very much for joining. We have been doing this talk hosting this version for over 7 years. I've been attending these for over 10 years. It's been a labor of love, just a pure altruistic volunteer, effort. I haven't had everybody that I ever wanted to speak, but I've had everybody that I was going to ask to speak. And my life's taken me in different directions now. So this might be the last one of these. I've tried to put out into the universe that I need some help getting speakers, setting up chairs, picking up coffee. So if you know anybody that would be interested in supporting efforts like this, these talks, by the way, happen around the world in a format called Creative Mornings, which we used to have in Fort Lauderdale, which some people have attended in Miami, and changed my life. I would not be here without this talk. That was my aha moment, for a fact. And that's why I've paid it back and paid it forward. But, it's just a lot. And so if you know somebody that would be interested in supporting, please reach out to me, email, direct message, come up to me, whatever the case may be. And I'd love to continue it, but it's not a lot of work, but it is a little bit of work. So I just wanted to put that out there to the universe. So And then please, if you want his contact information, it's on the Eventbrite page. He's easily accessible to find on the internet. We did a podcast where we went more into the science and the body and the health components of things, which is on the internet under Choose 954 podcast. Anything else you want to add to close with?
I'm sorry if this was heavy. I'm sorry if this was a heavy talk, but I think we need to start having heavier conversations. And I hope you take something away. I benefited you somehow today. And that's it.
And you mentioned the disconnection. Like, that's also part of why we do this, and the potlucks that we do here is to bring people together over discourse, over conversation, over community. And that's ultimately what has allowed us as humans to get to this point in civilization. It's by coming together, not being so disconnected. So I appreciate, and even if it was heavy, and even if you agree, disagree, whatever the case may be, I appreciate you sharing that, enlightening. It does leave us all with something to think about. So with that, we do like to wrap up with a selfie with the speaker, and then you guys could feel free to tour the art, tour the space. You don't have to go anywhere because the seats are already here. So let's just, yes.
When